What's up, everybody? Welcome into another edition of Crush City Territory. My name is Chandler Rome here with Tyler Stafford and Josh Reddick from West Palm Beach, where the Astros won their first game of 2025 today, 11-6, I believe, in a game against the St. Louis Cardinals that I'm going to be quite frank with you, I did not watch. I was there, though. Spencer Arrighetti pitched okay. A man named Joseph Sullivan, the grandson of former Heisman Trophy winner Pat Sullivan, hit a two-run homer, first home run for the Astros in spring training. Joseph Sullivan, I believe, was drafted last year. And Josh, I wanted to get, before we start getting into the Astros and stuff, a lot of fans are going to watch Grapefruit League games as the season goes, and they're going to have a lot of takes. They're going to see a lot of stuff that happens. They're going to see some pitchers that may give some stuff up. They're going to see some hitters that aren't in midseason form. Can you explain to the audience what the goal is when you go into a Grapefruit League game?
Well, I think it varies on the player. You got your guys that are going to be your set starters. I think for them, it's about just getting everything timed up to where you want to be, and just getting your timing right, and just working on seeing as many pitches as you can to make the best situation for you to be ready for the season. For guys like that, stats don't really matter as long as you're having good swings, putting good at bats together, just swinging at good pitches, really. And when you're looking at a guy who's battling for a spot, then the numbers become a very important thing to a point to where like these guys are still watching what pitches you're swinging at, so on and so forth, in the same regard as for an everyday guy. So I think it jumps from player to player, but it's all around just getting good pitches, focusing and getting your body right, and training, getting into what we call baseball shape, because there's no way to get in baseball shape except for to play the games.
Suffice to say, so all that to say, if a guy with an established track record, if a guy with a ton of service time struggles in Grapefruit League play, please do not run to Twitter and bash him. Conversely, if a non-roster guy that's fighting for a spot or a prospect lights it up in Grapefruit League play, please remember that they are facing a lot of those guys I just talked about, those guys that are entrenched and that are basically just trying to get through this healthy. They're trying to get into baseball shape, get rounded into form. One thing that we do know, so the thing with the Astros right now, none of their established major league guys have appeared in a Grapefruit League game yet. Chas McCormick and Jake Myers played on the first day of a split squad. Zach DeZenzo's gotten in there a little bit, but haven't seen Alvarez, haven't seen Isaac Paredes, haven't seen Christian Walker. That is not abnormal. A lot of these guys, they like to ease veterans into Grapefruit League games. They don't want to play them too early. But one thing that we did learn is when Jose Altuve does make his Grapefruit League debut, it will be in left field. And we have not talked a ton since we really got into the swing of full squad workouts. But Josh, if Jose Altuve has taken a ground ball since he's been in West Palm Beach, he has done it on a backfield where no one can see it. He has worked exclusively in the outfield, doing everything from cuts and relays to pop-up call drills to everything. He's out there during batting practice, reading balls off the bat, working on his first step. Josh, this is happening. Jose Altuve is going to play a lot of left field for this team. And I know when we last talked about it, it was kind of in the experimental stages of, oh, sure, like we'll see. But as this is becoming more real, Josh, how surprised are you, and how do you think he will acquit to left field?
The one thing that really surprises me and stands out is how quickly it has developed to being something more serious, even after all the moves that have been made in around the league. Like first it was, well, we're going to split time if we get Bregman back. Didn't get Bregman back. He just seems to keep working more and more time, spending more and more time out there. So it seems deep down that the plan all along was to get Altuve out there regardless of what happened or what may or may not happen here in the near future as well. So they seem to be set that they're going to have him out there for a majority of games. And, for all we know, Altuve might be loving it. He might be thinking, this is a huge weight off my shoulders getting out of the infield, because it's a constant movement in the infield. You get a little bit more time to kind of relax and be a little lazy out there. As long as you pick your spots right, maybe he's enjoying it out there. So we never know. But yeah, the biggest surprise is how much this has developed regarding how much we knew about. Oh, well, let's just for if we get Bregman back. If not, then he's going to go right back. So it's definitely something that I think they kind of beat around the bush with, and in the beginning they were just like, you know what, we're doing this anyway.
I think you're right. I think Altuve is just having fun. Every video I see of him out there, he just looks like he's goofing around and he's enjoying playing. And who knows, maybe he just took a couple fly balls, when they mentioned it, and he was like, "Yep, this is what I want to do now." And they said, "Okay."
The easiest job in spring training is an outfielder because there's only so many drills that you can do while waiting on the infield, because the infielder they have to do their PFPs with the pitchers. They have to do, pickoffs and rundowns with the pitchers. Well, there's only so many fly balls we can get off the machine. Only so many sun balls you can work on, ground balls. So in my experience, outfield has a lot more time to kind of just hang out, get more water breaks, kind of just take our time in between drills, kind of, so to speak. And if you're an outfielder, majority of the time, you get to go to the cage and do more work while other guys are kind of still working on their defense and infielder out there with the pitchers. So I know it was always a relief for me to kind of go hang out in the shade, go sit on the bench and get a few cups of water while we wait for them to get done.
You mentioned getting into like baseball shape, right? Like you talked about that, especially the veterans, that's really what they're trying to do. For those of us who have not played professional baseball, what does that mean? Because I know that you could physically play a game of baseball, but what does it mean internally of like, here's what's off right now, here's what I need to feel ready for the season?
So I think the one thing when I talk about baseball ready in the season, you're talking about basically being out there in cleats for a certain amount of time, because when you're working out in the off season, you're doing everything possible, but you're rarely wearing your cleats unless you're taking your grounders, your defensive work. You're never really out there for 2 or more hours in your cleats. And until you get to spring training, you're not doing that. And then you still don't do it for the first week, especially if you're a guy, that's not going to play until week 2. All these young kids are getting their time in. You're not putting on the metal spikes. You're putting on the rubber, the molded, but those are a lot different feel than putting on those metal spikes and kind of training your feet and your body to get back to being used to wearing those spikes, because it does. Everything connects once you put those things on, and you don't realize it until you're standing out there for 2.5 hours that, this is something that you can't just do in the backyard. You can't go in your backyard and put cleats on for 2 hours and have the same thing you're going to get when you're out there. So it's just a whole different way of moving your body.
Josh, one thing you said, and Tyler, you mentioned it too, as someone that is here and that is watching Jose Altuve do this, I'm here to tell you that he is energized. Like, he is as excited as I've seen him. I mean, this is his 15th spring training. Like, these things can get old, and he is smiling. He's bouncing around. He ran off the field the other day after they did cuts and relays. He was like, he had like 4 or 5 guys behind him, and when he was running off the field, he goes, "Guys, the outfielders are here," as he's running into the bench. I really think this is energizing him, and he is excited. I think part of it is he wants to maybe prove some people wrong that are doubting whether he can play the outfield. But I mean, Josh, like, tell me if I'm off base here, but like, I think like when you've been in the league as long as Altuve has, and when you played the same position for as long as he played, like, is there a world in which he kind of got bored and he kind of just got, like, and it's one of these things where just moving him and getting him into a new place and a new position, giving him new challenges to do can kind of reinvigorate him?
Yeah, I think that's a great way of putting it. Like you said, it switches up a routine that he's been so used to and accustomed to for years. You get put in a place where you've never really been before, and you're learning a whole new routine. So maybe it becomes this new exciting thing to kind of, be able to joke with these guys and work with these guys every day and see what their day's like. And we can always go back to, like I said, outfield's a lot easier in spring training of a job. The hardest thing you got to worry about is the sun drill. So when you're out there, being able to kind of just, be lazy. I mean, being lazy is the best way to put it. That might be something that's kind of been different for him. And like you said, learning a new thing could be that way of challenging himself to see what kind of athlete he can be and prove people wrong while doing it. So absolutely. And I think just the switch of scenery can be enough to give a guy a new boost.
I know everyone wants to keep talking about Jose Altuve in left field because that feels like the only storyline in Astros camp, but there are more, and we will touch on those in a second, right after we hear from our friends at Foul Territory.
Oh, Todd Father. Remember the good old days when we would have the cards in the binders, but then they'd get all messed up and we're trying to sell online and it's just real clunky? They really actually weren't the good old days, were they?
No, they were definitely not. But now there's a better way. The Arena Club has been dominant with this. You get to trade your cards, you could sell them. But the best part for me is getting them graded. I love everything about that. This new age of getting cards graded. You could display them on your online showroom, your mobile device. It's the coolest thing in the world.
Whether you're buying, selling, trading, or displaying, Arena Club is the all-in-one trading card platform. You have to sign up for an account at arenaclub.com/foul. Just like Todd Father mentioned, there's a process that combines AI and human grading to get the job done. Right now, 20% off your first slab pack or card purchase by going to arenaclub.com/foul. Use code FOUL. That's arenaclub.com/foul. Code FOUL for 20% off your first purchase.
I've got that same Otani card. I was looking for it. I did find my Correa rookie one.
That's got to be his rookie card. He looks like he's 12. He looks like he's 12 in the face.
And then they had like the alternate photo one too.
Yeah.
There you go.
Okay.
Josh, some reporting came out the past couple of days about the Astros renewing some interest in Nolan Arenado. What Katie Wu and I at The Athletic have reported, and Katie Wu of Cardinal territory as well, what we've reported is that the Astros did reach back out to the Cardinals shortly after Alex Bregman signed with the Red Sox.
Mm-hmm.
From what we understand and what we've been told by people involved, those negotiations, if you can even call them that, were very brief, did not lead anywhere, and there is no deal for Nolan Arenado imminent. There is nothing gaining traction here. As always, Nolan Arenado has the autonomy here because he has a full no trade clause.
Mm-hmm.
But Josh, the mere fact that the Astros are reaching back out, or that they did reach back out, to me just signals that they're still uneasy about their lineup. They think they're still a man short. They think they're still a bat short or something. What was your reaction when you kind of saw that the talks had been re-engaged, however brief they were?
I think it's still a little shocking because when you think about reaching out to a guy who's already turned you down once, you kind of feel like it's not going to be in the cards for you the second time around. So who knows? Maybe they're just trying to catch them, and not just Nolan, but the Cardinals off guard, because we've seen what's going on over there. They're obviously kind of jumping ship and kind of slowly rebuilding. So maybe they tried to add a little pressure on them, see if they would falter, and just didn't work out for them. So we'll see what happens. They could always get to that point to where Arenado's like, you know what, this is zero fun for me to be over here. I'm not ready for a rebuild, and those guys are still in the pinnacle of winning. So see what happens, and he can grind it out for a little bit in season as well, and they can always come back around 2 or 3 months into the season. Don't even have to wait for the trade deadline. Just get it out there and, get it before the All-Star break if you need to. Get him settled in and a little bit more comfortable as opposed to that little short rental.
Yeah, and I think if they had not already signaled how often Altuve was going to play in the outfield, trading for another infielder would signal that even further, right? Like that is really underlining the point that I think Altuve is not planning on playing much of any second base this year.
No, that seems like it might become his majority position at that point if a move like that becomes made.
So then you have to wonder who's going to play second base, which is not a question that we have had to ask about the Astros in 14 years. It's been confounding to me that they haven't just come out and said Mauricio Dubon is going to be the everyday second baseman, because it seems like the most ideal setup to just
on paper he's the guy.
Right. And, they brought in Brendan Rodgers on a minor league deal a couple of days ago, won the National League Gold Glove at second base in 2022. Does his home road splits while he was with the Rockies show that he loved hitting at Coors Field and did not love hitting much else, did not love hitting anywhere else. So I know the Astros are going to work with him to try to get the ball in the air a little bit more. He hits the ball on the ground way too much. They've got Luis Guillorme in camp too, who, Josh, I don't know if you ever crossed paths with Luis Guillorme. This guy can pick it. watching him take infield is a show. Like he quick hands, gets the ball out very quickly, and he's left-handed. So I do wonder, would they consider platooning Luis Guillorme and Mauricio Dubon at second base? That way Dubon can be freed up to still be the utility guy, to play in the outfield on some days when they need him, to play, elsewhere if injuries happen. But to me, if it's not going to be Dubon playing every day, I think a platoon with him and a left-handed hitter like Luis Guillorme would work.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment. I mean, this guy, he's not only known for picking and playing defense, he can also catch a foul ball or a foul bat flying in your dugout when needed.
Wait, that happened?
He's the guy who caught the foul ball, the bat in Mets camp a couple years ago.
Oh yeah, like over the back of his head.
Over the back and then flipped back, and then he had like a 14 pitch at bat against Jordan Hicks, and then hit a homer or something. So he's a spring training god, so to speak. He's well known for being in Sports Center in spring training. But yeah, to get back to your point, I mean, I think that's a fair thing to look at right now, because I'm with you. Dubon at second base is not what you're going to put out there 150 times a year. And Guillorme provides a nice safety net for them if they do need to make that piece, acquire that piece that they need to fill in that hole in the gap for them.
There seems to be fans, I think, seem to be upset that because the way this is working out, they're probably going to have to commit a lot of at-bats to someone that has below average offensive numbers for his career.
Right.
And I think that's why the Arenado thing was so intriguing, because even though he has declined offensively the last 3 years, this is still an above average offensive player, obviously a generational defender. I mean, this is a guy that would raise the floor of this lineup. But as we look at the lineup and as we look how kind of short it is, and the Astros are signaling that it's short because they keep calling the Cardinals about Nolan Arenado. I keep going back to Jeremy Pena, Josh. Like, I think he has got to find a way to find some of the slug that we saw when he was a rookie, when he did what he hit 25 homers as a rookie. Saw what he did in the playoffs, obviously. Josh, you can, as you watch someone, when you watch a hitter, you have more intricate knowledge of what goes on than I do. As you watch Pena, like, what do you think he can do to elevate the ball a little more, unlock some of the power that we saw 2 years ago?
I think aggressiveness becomes a key factor for him. He seems to be a little less aggressive than he was in the past. And then when he gets to that 2-strike, he kind of expands a lot. We've seen the slider down the way give him a lot of issues in the past. So I think just kind of staying more within his zone, but while being aggressive in that said zone, not being aggressive in the whole zone, but finding that happy zone where you can really trigger and let loose and let it eat, so to speak. And if you get one, you get one. If not, then you just go back to grinding away, because at that point you're going to provide natural power. Natural pop's going to come out of nowhere. But being a more aggressive hitter and kind of just being more exertive out there, just don't go up there expecting to shoot everything back up the middle. There's a time and place for that, because that was what he was so great at last season early on. When he started out hot over 300, everything was back up the middle, not trying to do too much. But then you look back and it goes, man, it really wasn't that much power. So I think it just picks the spots. You always get one swing in an at bat, maybe two if you're lucky, to kind of let loose and get that home run ball swing. But after that, you just got to let it come naturally. So just for him to be more aggressive in his happy zone, to be that as well.
What did you guys do at spring training when you were done with work at like 3 p.m? I feel like that's a weird spot to be in for you guys. You're normally getting done at like midnight. What are you doing all day?
Are we talking Florida spring training or Arizona spring training?
Well, I guess Florida.
Well, see, my West Palm Beach days were pretty much filled with going back to my place, finding a little pond to go catch some bass in if I could, because that's what Florida's great for down there. Or playing some video games. The video games became a big factor, and if I wasn't going to the beach or along those lines, I was just hanging out and playing video games.
I feel like it's a very different rhythm than the actual season. You guys have to be such night owls, and then to all of a sudden have to show up at what time are you showing up for a spring training game if it starts at noon?
Let's see, probably around 7:15. I was usually around at the ballpark.
Okay.
Never the first early bird by any means. Those days were earlier on in the career, Yeah, still felt pretty good because I wasn't one of the last ones to get there, so I was kind of in that middle ground to get in there and
So,
hang out.
so,
I like to mingle and talk stuff to the boys in the clubhouse too, so I wasn't going to miss anything.
so what about Arizona spring training?
Arizona spring training, I'd get there at the same time. But the dinners became a little bit more extravagant and a lot better. Didn't really cook for myself as much as I did in Florida. Just it definitely. The good thing for me is I'm not ashamed to say that the casino in Arizona was my friend. There's Talking Stick, a very great place, and for me on Mondays was the day we would get our meal money. So Mondays were my casino days. I would go to Top Golf right there by Talking Stick, and literally just have a few drinks there at 5 o'clock. Have a little early dinner at Top Golf, grab a burger, and then. And I never drove anywhere at all in Arizona. If you're doing stuff like that, you don't mess around. I mean, drinking and driving is wrong regardless. But definitely don't do it there. And this Uber, I'd get an Uber every time because it would be like right in front of each other. And these Ubers would be so mad because it was like a $3 Uber. But I'd always kick them like a 20 because I was usually not in the frame of mind to be driving myself anywhere anyway. So I made sure I took care of him. Like, listen, buddy, like this is happening. I'm not walking. So let's go.
Do you golf left-handed?
I do.
Okay,
golf.
me too.
I never was a big golfer in the baseball season, spring training, or in season, but I am lefty.
Yeah, I'm left-handed, so growing up, like I couldn't borrow other people's clubs, and so I didn't get the like just casual golf experience that I feel like you get sometimes growing up, and so now I'm just terrible. I'm having to figure it out.
I got lucky. My grandfather bought me a set of clubs for my 5th and my 10th birthday.
There you go.
Because he was huge golf guy, and he could see my brother was getting clubs like all the time, just hand me downs, and he saw how much it sucked for me to get nothing, so he bought me some nice brand new ones at left hand. So I'm not bad. I could keep it in like the mid to high 80s, low 90s.
That's very good.
I'll take it. You break 100 as an amateur, you're doing fine.
Is JV the best baseball playing golfer you've been around, or is there anyone in the game? Because I've heard Verlander is exceptional on the golf course.
Justin Verlander is good, but I'm going to show my age and my experience in the league here. And John Smoltz was actually my teammate in Boston, and John Smoltz is one of the best golfing baseball players I've ever heard of. I never played with him, but he was my teammate, so that puts him up in the rankings.
That's because Justin was notorious. You knew when he was going golfing because his stuff would. You knew when his tee time was too because he would get to West Palm. He would stuff.
You knew when JV was on his own schedule in spring training that there was a golf course ready to go, and it was most likely an hour up the road at Jim's place.
No, he was one of those that his stuff would be done by 9:30, 10 o'clock, and he would be dressed and out of there.
He'd be gone as we were walking out to stretch, and nobody said a word because it's JV. So,
Josh, is spring training a place like we heard? We've heard stories about these big dinners that happen. Obviously, I believe the Astros are having their dinner at the Floridian with Jim Crane on Monday, but when Hector Neris was in camp, I know when he was an Astro, he took all the Latino prospects out to dinner free of charge on him. Is this a place where the big leaguers can show some of that generosity to some of the younger guys, and how does maybe team bonding and camaraderie, does that start in spring training, or is that just a storyline that's overblown?
I think it's a little bit of both sides of that coin deal because I remember in my Oakland days, we didn't really do it in spring training because we didn't know what our roster was going to look like until 2 days before camp. But we kind of just treated them in-house, so to speak, and got them taken care of that way. And then we would go in season and take the boys out to dinner with, you always have those flights, especially being on the West Coast, where you have to fly on an off day and get in super early. So you use that time to take the boys out to dinner, but it was always buying them something. And when I came up, it was always the veterans are going to buy the rookies a suit. And I remember Carl Crawford bought me a suit my rookie year, so that's how I kind of continued mine on. I paid for my share of dinners, but I always try to take care of them in that regard. I remember buying like Kempy a nice suit one year. I bought guys suits on the A's a couple of times. So just kind of just doing that. I feel like a suit can last longer. A nice little $2,000 suit can last longer than a little $400 or $500 dinner. It'd be more appreciated. Not that they didn't appreciate the dinner, but it's just something that you can look in the closet and go, man, that was pretty cool. Because I still have mine. I still have mine from Carl Crawford 2011 hanging in my closet right now.
Still fits?
I was gonna say that's impressive.
It's close to fitting again. Not gonna lie, I'm back to working out and I'm down to 192 again. So it's close to fitting this year. I gotta look a little bit better in my suits this year on TV.
Which spring training did you show up in the best shape of your life? For real, you can't. I mean, I know everyone comes in and is in the best shape of their life.
2010.
2010,
which was ironically my worst spring training in my life. I was like 215. I had put on like stupid amount of muscle. I was trying to get more focus on like hitting more long balls, and I went into spring training, and for like I got there early. So like for the first 3 weeks, I couldn't hit. My swing was just all messed up. And then we found out my swing path had changed because I'd gotten too big. And so I immediately started shredding my weight and would get on the treadmill every morning with the freaking jogging suit that make you drench sweat and cut my weight real quick, and then ended up turning it around and hitting better.
So people actually do come in with more muscle, and it's not that they've just gained 15 pounds, because that's what I would say. If I showed up after a few months 15 pounds heavier, I would say that I put on 15 pounds of muscle.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it was. I mean, 5 pounds is good. Anything you put on 5 pounds, you know, no matter where you're at, you're going to shed those 5 pounds going into camp anyway. So a little happy weight never hurt. A little too much weight hurt yours truly. And but like, we're athletes. It's all personal preference and how your body's going to react and how things can take effect. You just prove that, being a little bigger wasn't necessarily better for me.
I wrestled in high school, and you even talking about cutting weight and getting on a treadmill in trash bags and sweats, it gave me shivers down my spine. I cut a ton of weight when I was wrestling, and that is I do not wish that on my worst enemy.
Yeah, we've all been a part of the trash bag cardio crew.
But speaking of best shape of his life, there is an Astros player that fits right into it. John Singleton. I don't know if you guys have seen pictures of him since he reported here. Believe he lost 25 pounds.
Wow.
He looks like a Greek god. Like, he's always been ripped. Like, let's not mistake it. Like, John Singleton's a big man. He is all muscle. Like, if certainly on the Astros, he may win best shape of his life award throughout MLB for spring training. He reported, and he looks unbelievable.
How many buttons are open on his shirt?
He should given how good he looks, he should go shirtless.
Just go full open. Yeah.
Yes. Don't play with a jersey.
Find a Astros tank top and put that on, and we'll be fine.
Yeah.
He again, I'm not sure what his role is on this team, especially with Christian Walker now in the fold, but this team needs left-handed bats because their entire lineup outside of Jordan is right-handed. So John Singleton is going to probably still make this club, has a bench spot open, swings at strikes, doesn't swing at balls, has great plate discipline. He's the kind of guy you want to pinch hit late in games, especially, he can run into power, but he has put himself in a position to where if it doesn't, if there is a roster crunch and he leaves the organization or the organization has to cut ties with him, like, he has put himself in a position where I think he would be very attractive to some other teams just by the shape he has gotten his body into. And I think certainly, it's overused, the best shape of your life sort of thing. But John Singleton came into camp and he looks unbelievably good.
He's such a fun hitter to watch. He kind of has that Bregman thing of like, he knows where every pitch is all the time. Very rarely does he just get completely fooled at the plate. And Josh, as you've mentioned, there's not a lot of those guys on the Astros that are taking a bunch of pitches. Like, it always feels like he's going to see 5 or 6 pitches in every at bat. You know, like you said, Chandler, it feels like an 8th inning pinch hit guy. Like if we didn't have the DH anymore, he would be like the secret sauce for, you know, that late inning pinch hit.
Heck, put him in the outfield.
Everyone else is doing it.
They can do it. How hard can it be?
We've learned anybody can play the outfield. So it doesn't matter. Just put him in right field and see what happens.
Right field. Okay, we're gonna have Altuve and Singleton out there.
You can't put him in left. That's Altuve's spot.
They could both play left, and then just let Jake Myers play the rest of the outfield.
Absolutely.
Tyler, if I'd have told you when you were watching the Astros in 2014 that we'd still be talking about John Singleton,
I would have absolutely believed you. I was way in on John Singleton. I knew every prospect that came over in that Hunter Pence trade. And
talking about prospects, you guys dealt with Chris Carter in the outfield. John Singleton cannot be any worse than Chris Carter. And I loved Chris Carter.
He was
left fielder.
He was something to watch for
sure.
sure.
Anyone can play left field at the former Minute Maid Park, now Daikin Park. And Carlos Lee, Chris Carter. Like, I'm sure if you stuck Jordan Alvarez, like, I'm sure if you stuck John Singleton out there, it'd be all right.
Hanley Ramirez.
There you go.
I've seen Kevin Franzen play out there.
Now we're just naming some guys.
Yeah, let's just JD Martinez played out there forever. So,
Josh, did you play with both Singleton and Chris Carter?
I never played with Singleton. I played against.
He was gone before. He was gone in like 2015.
I played against him when I was with Oakland, and played with Chris Carter in 2012 in Oakland, and then against CC as an Astro.
Those are two human beings that can hit the ball a very long way.
Chris Carter has never swung hard in his life. I don't understand how he hits 500-foot home run. Like he looked like he was taking like a kid's pinata swing. Like that, he was just up there, just kind of.
He was like a 36-ounce bat.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, back to your power. I came up playing against Chris Carter. I don't know if you remember Brandon Allen.
Oh yeah.
I played against them at 3 different levels in the minors, so I've seen plenty of home runs hit by those guys like that.
I saw. I'm assuming you've played at Whataburger Field, the stadium, so you know that lefties just can't hit anything to right field. That wind blows in from right field, and there's that like water park behind right field. You know what I'm talking about? That's way back there. In 2015, when I worked there, we hosted the All-Star game for AA, and Joey Gallo was in it. And, dude, he hit a ball that landed inside the water park. It had to have been 520, 530 feet. Like, I mean, into the wind. It was the craziest thing I've ever seen. Like,
Be the only person to be able to do that from that side.
For sure. It was incredible.
We're going to stop naming some guys because this is we're at the part of spring training now where it's very
do. What do you want me to do?
Right.
It's very monotonous. We could break down who's going to get the 5th or 6th bullpen spot. We could exhaust we could break down the 7 lefties in camp. We could break down who's ready for that final bench spot, but I think this is more fun. This is kind of sometimes the perils of covering and talking about a team that, even with Jose Altuve moving to left field, like this team's set. Like barring an injury, barring something catastrophic happening, or barring a trade, I guess, in the next 5 weeks, you kind of know who's going to be on that 26-man roster when they open against the Mets. So.
Josh, on a split squad day, how do you know if you're on the good team?
What do you mean by define the good team? Because there's usually like 3 or 4.
We know there's one. We know there's one good team. Come on.
When I was around, what AJ and Dusty did for days like that is he would split infielders and outfielders. I remember like Brantley, Springer, and I. And now that I think about it, we went on the road more than those little.
See,
butts.
There's one good team.
So like the Altuve, Correa, Bregman,
That's a good one.
have to stay at home now that I more think about it. So yeah, that explains and answers everything you need to know at that point.
Josh, did you know there's rules now? Like Mike Hill came to Astros camp, and like there are rules now. You have to send players on the road. Like if for a road spring training game, you have got to send players with a certain amount of major league plate appearances because they want to guard against what we're talking about right now. They want to guard against all the big guys staying home and sending a bunch of prospects or a bunch of 4A guys to these road games where there's also crowds there that want to see, I guess, Jose Altuve or Alex Bregman or whomever.
Right.
They're not going to penalize you if you just get, I believe, a stern text and a stern "don't do this again." But it's pretty wild that like there's now Major League Baseball like rules that say
well,
like
actually policing that, because it was always understood you had to take at least like one person from your active roster that was going to be on your active roster that year. But I didn't know it was based on like at bats, because there was a couple where like I remember my first year back with, or my first year with the Astros, I volunteered to go to Fort Myers, the Red Sox place, just because I just, I got traded before they got their new ballpark. So I kind of just wanted to see I wanted to see the new ballpark and see like all my old coaches in there. So I got volunteered, and I was the only guy. It was me and then like 8 guys that may have been AA, AAA players. But just those little things. Yeah, I always thought it was something, but now that it's at bats, I mean, I get it. From a fan perspective, I get it. I didn't want to come watch some scrub from AA get caught up for the day. No offense to whoever that may be, but I like you said, you're there to see guys like Jordan. You're there to see guys like Jose Altuve, and like maybe I don't want to go to West Palm Beach. Maybe I want to go to Port St. Lucie and watch these guys. So I get it, and it makes sense.
it was kind of funny so the Astros, they opened this spring Grapefruit League play with a split squad. They went to the squad they sent to Port St. Lucie, got the Mets A lineup. They saw Lindor, Soto, Alonso, Beatty, Alvarez, like everyone was in that lineup. And I off the top of my head, I don't know who comprised the 350 plate appearances of big league service. I believe it's 350. I don't know. It's somewhere around there. But the Astros did not send their A lineup to Port St. Lucie. But again, I don't think the Mets fans really cared because they got to watch Juan Soto hit a home run with like his first at bat in the uniform, which I think is really all they care about. All the Astros fans may care about is to watch Jose Altuve play in left field for the first time in a spring training game, which could happen this coming week. And if it does, we will be there to talk about it and chronicle it. And we will be back at some point this week with another episode of Crush City Territory, breaking down everything going on with the Astros in West Palm Beach. If you could rate and review us on Apple, subscribe on YouTube, really helps us out. Leaving reviews helps us out, gets us noticed, gets us moving up there in the Apple podcast charts. I don't know what that does for us, but I'm told it's good. So please make our bosses happy and rate and review us on Apple. Give us a subscription and a follow on YouTube, and you'll be alerted anytime that we go live. So for Josh Reddick and Tyler Stafford, I'm Chandler Rome. Thanks again, everyone, for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
See ya.